Hey guys, and welcome back to the theBSofSociety. So now let's talk about Arknights. So Arknights is a tower defense style game. So much like Bloons Tower Defense, if y'all ever played that. And it has quite a bit more twists than what other tower defense games have. Most tower defense games have, basically like enemy health that you have to take down, and some will have like orbs that enemies will pick up and then they'll take it back to their base, like on defense grid. Or you'll have balloons that you have to take down that have like different layers, and then that's how many lives they take, depending on the layers they have, like in Bloons Tower Defense. Arknights works a bit differently. So you still have enemies with health, but where you deploy your towers is a little different. You actually deploy your units pretty much directly in their path besides ranged units. And the enemies and your units will actually fight each other, right? Which is a little different than what I've seen with most gacha game or most tower defense games. I don't think I've ever seen a tower defense game where the enemies can actually destroy your towers, right? You still have your basics, you still have your deployment costs. All stages in Arknights, from what I can tell, have a deployment limit, so you can't deploy all of your units at once. And in Arknights, you can only face your units in one of four directions: up, right, down, left, right? So it can lead to pretty interesting gameplay, and I kind of like it. However, I feel like the beginning of the game is a little bit tedious because you don't have everything unlocked that you need to be able to level up your units. I would say the most important thing for free-to-play players at the beginning of Arknights is to level up your 3-star units. Because pretty much, from what I can gather, almost all of the 3-star units are free-to-play. I think there's some that you don't get, but you'll quickly get those out of the gacha system, so they're essentially free to play, right? And these units are not to be overlooked. They are very useful, and I'm still using the original, like, pretty much my entire group is 3 stars. And the reason why you want to use 3 stars is because they're the easiest to level up. In order to elite them, which is, like to limit break them, you need certain materials. Now, for 3 stars, all you need is basically like the gold or the coins or the mora per se of Arknights, which is LMD or Lugman dollars as they like to call it. So 3 stars need 10,000 LMD to go to Elite 1, which is the max they can go to. And that's basically it, right? And then you just need like some basic materials to get their skills up, and they're done. Pretty much, if you get all the way to, I believe, Chapter 3-4, you can pretty much level them all the way up to max, pretty easily. And that allows you to basically push through a good chunk of the game to start leveling up your other units, right? Because 4 stars and higher need what's called chips, basically. So each type of unit, your healers, your guards, your vanguards, they all require chips, right? And there's 8 different types of units. So vanguards are basically like your banana farms. They are what allows you to get more deployment points over time. So they're used at the beginning of the game, or beginning of each map. And then you have your guards, which is basically your main DPS. And then you have your defenders, which are your tanks. And then you have specialists, which can basically be deployed on almost any tile. And they usually have like some kind of special ability, like pulling enemies, pushing enemies, things like that. Healers, obviously, their only role is to heal your units. So you can't solo with them, which is sad. But, yeah, so healers heal your units. Ranged units usually use like bows or pistols or something like that, and they basically are deployed on range tiles, which are usually elevated from the main map. They are used to target air units usually, and then you have casters, which are basically the same thing, but they deal arts damage. Now, there's two different types of damage. There's physical damage and arts damage. At the beginning of the game, you're mostly dealing with physical resistance, so you need a lot of arts damage. Later on, you start dealing with a lot of arts damage units, which are resistant to arts, but are more vulnerable to physical damage. It's important to pay attention to those two resistances. From what I've noticed, the enemies that deal physical damage are usually resistant to their same damage type. So they're resistant to physical damage. Then arts damage dealers are resistant to arts damage. Now, when I was mentioning the difficulty before, the issue starts coming in when you need those chips for 4 stars, 5 stars, and 6 stars. Because a lot of the stages, like take Rangers for example, Rangers and Casters, their stage is basically centered around them, right? So you're kind of forced to level up all of your units before you can progress. And some of us, like me, usually like to focus on one unit at a time, not on my entire roster of units. And that is where my issue with the difficulty comes in. Is that I feel like it's a little too ridiculous. Especially at the beginning. After a while, it really doesn't matter. You kind of get back into that point of one unit at a time. But especially at the beginning of Arknights, I hate having to do almost all of my units just to get anywhere. That's just a personal thing. But yeah. So now we get into the gacha system, right? And actually, we won't get into the gacha system in this video. It's going to take me a while because I didn't realize how anti-free-to-play friendly this system actually is. So let's go to the dorm instead. The dorm is pretty useful in Arknights. It's not something that can actually just be ignored, like in Girls Frontline and stuff. Well, to an extent for Girls Frontline. But, like Hunky, the dorm literally serves no purpose in the main game. Genshin Impact, the dorm literally serves no purpose in the main game. But Arknights, it does. Okay? So you have a factory and a trading post, which what I usually use those two for is to get more LMD, because LMD is pretty tedious to grind for. And, especially as a free-to-play player, that really, really helps you not use up all of your sanity, which sanity is your stamina, right? And this is something I mentioned to Genshin players a while back when Genshin came out, is that as a free-to-play player, you don't get a lot of sanity. Yes, you can infinitely refresh if you have Originate Primes, but as a free-to-play player, you don't have many of those. So, and you might want to use the Originate Primes on Gacha system instead of on Sanity. So, you kind of want to conserve as much sanity as you can, and I feel like LMD is the best way to do that through the factories. And then you have Warehouse to build elite materials, building materials, all that. You have your dorm to increase your units' morale, because they decrease morale as they keep working. You have a training area to level up your skills past level 7 for 4 stars and up. And you have an office to give you like recruitment refreshes, which I'll get to in the next video as well. And then you have like clue hunting or whatever it is. I forget what it's called. Which is your main source of credits, which I can get to when I get into the store. And then you have your command center, which is basically your main thing that you have to level up. There's really no issues with the dorm, honestly. Dorm's actually kind of perfect, including the music. If I can think of anything, I'll further elaborate on it. Other than that, I would really like to get into the gacha system in the next video. So, this is the introduction to Arknights, and yeah, that's that. Talk to you guys later.